Blending humanism, diplomacy and tough talk, India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has taken on her Pakistani counterpart Sartaj Aziz yet again. Pakistan-occupied Kashmir belongs to India. India's Union Minister for External Affairs conveyed this message to Pakistan when she said India will issue a medical visa to an ailing man from the region. New Indian rules state that all Pakistanis applying for a medical visa to India must get a letter from Pakistan's foreign advisor Sartaj Aziz. Sushma Swaraj tweeted earlier, POK is an integral part of India. Pakistan has illegally occupied it. We are giving him visa, no letter required, unquote. Osama Ali, a 24-year-old resident of Rawalkot in POK, has been diagnosed with a tumor in his liver and wants to seek treatment in Delhi. Ali's family has appealed to the MEA to revoke the requirement of a letter from Sartaj Aziz for medical emergency visa. A private hospital, in fact, in Delhi has reportedly agreed to treat him as well and has suggested a liver transplant. This is being seen as a new stance by India, given that earlier this month, Swaraj had said in a series of tweets that Pakistani citizens requesting a medical visa to travel to India must have a letter from their foreign ministry. All right, in fact, just a short while ago, I spoke to Osama Ali's father, Mr. Javed Naz, and this is what he told WION.
उन्होंने बुलाया हुआ है तो कल जाएंगे। अच्छा नहीं, मेरे पास फिलहाल मैडम कोई इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है। उन्होंने फोन किया था, आपके हाई कमीशन से फोन आया था कि आप अकाउंट नंबर 1 पे राब्ता करें, बस
जी
इतनी सी इंफॉर्मेशन है, बाकी कोई नहीं है। लेकिन वो डॉक्टर साहब से राब्ता कर रहे हैं, तो जो ही राब्ता होगा तो फिर आएंगे। जिन डॉक्टर साहब से हमारा राब्ता है ना, उनसे राब्ता कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये अचानक ही हुआ है तो उनसे दोबारा राब्ता कर रहे हैं हमने। तो वो शायद हमें कहें कि कोई टेस्टें वस्टें यहाँ से करानी है, वो करा के भेजनी है वगैरह, तो उसके बाद ही फिर कोई प्रोग्राम बनेगा डॉक्टर की इजाजत से। उन्होंने बुलाया हुआ है तो कल जाएंगे हम इंशाल्लाह।
All right. In fact, that was Javed Naz Khan. He's a lawyer in Rawalkot and also a worker of the PMLN. He told us that the Indian High Commission officials have gotten in touch with them and they will be meeting them tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. All hopes that the visa will be granted and finally the long wait for ailing Osama will be over. He will be able to travel to India and get treatment for his tumor of the liver. In fact, at this point, let me get in WION's Pakistan Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui. He joins me live. Taha, what's happening? Any more word on Osama Ali? Exactly how their family went about it? We are learning that he got in touch with the Indian High Commission and they're expecting that the visa will be granted sometime tomorrow.
Sana, basically, I spoke to some sources here at the Indian High Commission, which is supposed to issue the visa to Pakistanis traveling to India, and they basically have confirmed to me that they are in touch with Osama's family post the tweet of Sushma Swaraj, the Minister of External Affairs in India, and basically they have called them over for 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. They have arrived in Islamabad tonight, but because Rawalkot and Islamabad are quite far, so the distance is quite far, so they had to travel a lot, and because of which today they couldn't make it in time for office hours, and tomorrow morning they will be heading towards the Indian High Commission, where they're supposed to meet with the Indian Embassy officials and the visa counselor, and then submit their application. It's not clear as if the visa will be issued in the same day or not, but the Indian High Commission here has received confirmation and sort of clearance from the Indian External Ministry of issuing the visa, so they will be processed as and when they receive the passport and application tomorrow.
All right. And Taha, let's talk a bit more about the controversy. We've had the case of Kulbhushan Jadhav's mother as well, Pakistan denying that visa. Sushma Swaraj was miffed with Sartaj Aziz at that time as well. And this time she'd sent a very clear and a stern message to Pakistan. She says that POK is an integral part of India and therefore no visa is required for anybody who wants to travel to India for any purpose. So how is this statement being looked at in Pakistan?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing is that, Sana, basically, because I mean, in a way, the news coverage is all focused on this whole Panama issue. So none of the other news are making actually into the mainstream media.
Right.
But some of the commentators and some of the analysts that are speaking to, they have been comparing Sartaj Aziz's diplomacy to that of Sushma Swaraj's diplomacy, and saying that Sushma Swaraj is doing a much better job at sort of, raising the international image of India,
Right.
or sort of sending humanitarian messaging, and this diplomacy, at which sort of on the other end, Sartaj Aziz seems to be sort of a person who isn't even in the driving seat when it comes to the foreign policy, given the fact that the foreign policy is mostly dominated and directed by the Pakistan military here, which is what analysts believe. Sartaj Aziz has gotten a bit of a flack because of this, and saying that, look at the way Sushma Swaraj is carrying out her foreign ministry, and compared to what Sartaj Aziz is, who's usually not on the scene.
In fact, if Osama is able to come to India, that will be another message that India will be sending out. We will talk about the repercussions as well, but it's important to understand the present situation of Osama Ali. His father told us he's very fragile at this point in time. Joining me over the phone line is Dr. M. Wali, is a physician to the President of India. Dr. Wali, we are talking about this case of this man who's suffering from tumor of the liver. Now, explain to us, what does this mean? How much time does a person have? Is this condition life-threatening? And what happens if it's not treated in time?
Well, Sana, this could be a fatal condition if the liver tumor remains in the body. And liver tumors can be of two types, one seen in very young children, secondly primary tumors seen at the adult body, and also there are tumors which are secondary tumors in which other tumor goes to the liver as a metastasis. So this seems to be a case of primary liver tumor which has good prognosis, fair chances of survival if total liver transplant is done, or at least tumor is removed or embolized. There are multiple modalities in modern medicine today which can kill the tumor inflow of the blood and tumor dies.
Right.
And at the same time, we can do liver transplant to assist the dying liver to provide a new liver piece to maintain the life, and life can be saved.
Right. Okay, Dr. Wali, I get your point. Another quick question to you. Now, this is a case where, India is a reputed, country when it comes to medical assistance. Many patients from across the world travel to India because the Medicare over here, procedures over here are cheaper in cost as compared to other countries. And also the level of professionalism is much, much higher. So looking at that, how much does this kind of a procedure cost, say a liver transplant, and what does it mean for the medical tourism industry? Because we've seen patients from countries like Afghanistan and now increasingly Pakistan who like to travel to India to get top-notch treatment.
Our charges which come to total is about roughly 50 lakhs in a standard good institution which is a corporate setup. In institutions like AIIMS, it would cost very less amount, a few lakhs of rupees, which include a few tests, special tests.
Which is much lesser as compared to other countries.
From the world comparison values, our medical treatment is excellent. It is still the cheapest in the world and very efficient. And because we see and we do more number of cases, our doctors are very much efficient. Most of them have been trained abroad, and they do deal Indian patients, so they do have a good kind of experience. And I would call this as a life-saving diplomacy instead of medical diplomacy. This is a very good step taken by our Honorable Foreign Minister, Sushma Swaraj ji.
All right, very well put there, Dr. Wali. Thanks so much for joining us there with your expert input. So there you have it. This seems, as he says, life-saving diplomacy and not just medical diplomacy. But Taha, having said that, symbolically, what does this mean, and practically as well on the ground for many, many others who are looking to travel to India perhaps in the near future to get treatment which could be life-saving?
Well, Sana, basically the traffic that goes from Pakistan to India for such treatment is in thousands. The exact figures I could not get from the Indian High Commission, but they said round about every year 20 to 30% of the traffic of Pakistanis going to India is particularly based on this sort of medical visas and medical treatments that Pakistanis go there because of the cheaper availability of medicine, of treatment, and a much more advanced availability, and just the fact that in Pakistan many of them cannot really afford these treatments and have not been able to sort of even find cures or transplant technology in Pakistan is not that advanced, and it's only usually for the rich and not for the middle class or the poor people. So given all of that, India is definitely
Right. Taha, thanks so much on that note for joining us. We'll have to wrap this up right here. So very quickly to sum it up, Osama Ali, he's suffering from liver tumor, and in all likelihood he will be able to travel to India, all thanks to the Ministry of External Affairs, who has agreed, at least in part, as we know as of now. Tomorrow they will be going to the Indian High Commission there, and most probably they'll be granted a visa. Very quickly before we move on, let's play out once again what Osama Ali's father, Javed Naz Khan, told us a short while ago.
उन्होंने बुलाया हुआ है तो कल जाएंगे। अच्छा नहीं, मेरे पास फिलहाल मैडम कोई इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है। उन्होंने फोन किया था, आपके हाई कमीशन से फोन आया था कि आप अकाउंट नंबर 1 पे राब्ता करें, बस जी इतनी इंफॉर्मेशन है, बाकी कोई नहीं है। ये फिर वो डॉक्टर साहब से राब्ता कर रहे हैं, तो जो ही राब्ता होगा तो फिर आएंगे। जिन डॉक्टर साहब से हमारा राब्ता है ना, उनसे राब्ता कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये अचानक ही हुआ है तो उनसे दोबारा राब्ता कर रहे हैं हमने। तो वो शायद हमें कहें कि कोई टेस्टें वस्टें यहाँ से करानी है, वो करा के भेजनी है वगैरह, तो उसके बाद ही फिर कोई प्रोग्राम बनेगा डॉक्टर की इजाजत से। उन्होंने बुलाया हुआ है तो कल जाएंगे हम इंशाल्लाह।
All right, with that, we move on to the other big story. Another case of fratricide has been reported in the Indian Army. Major Shikhar Thapa, serving in a Rashtriya Rifles battalion, was shot dead by a Jawan following an altercation at a post in Uri. Well, here's how it happened. Reports say Thapa had reprimanded Nayak Kathiresan for using a cell phone while he was on duty. Kathiresan shot him with his service rifle. After this altercation, Thapa was brought dead to the military hospital. Thapa is survived by his wife and a 2-month-old child. This is the latest instance of fragging. A study carried out by the army has now revealed that in a majority of cases, fratricidal killings were triggered by stress linked to personal problems such as property disputes and marital discord. Only 0.3% cases were due to operational stress. Fragging has a tragic history. The term, in fact, goes back to the Vietnam War, when soldiers, angry with their officers, used to throw fragmentation grenades into the tents of unpopular officers. Although regular monitoring and medical checks have led to fewer instances of fragging, the fact is it is very hard to figure out, especially in conflict areas, when somebody decides to take his life or those of others. Here's a quick look at some of the fragging incidents in the Indian Army. Well, between the year 2007 and 2011, 17 fragging cases were reported in the Indian Armed Forces. On the 27th of February back in 2014, an army Jawan was gunned down. He gunned down 5 of his colleagues and then killed himself. This happened in Kashmir. In 2011, an army Jawan gunned down 4 of his colleagues, again in Jammu and Kashmir. In 2004, an army Jawan gunned down 2 of his senior officers. All right, to get a better perspective, to talk a little bit more about what exactly is fragging and why we're seeing this case yet again, joining me right now live is retired Brigadier S.K. Chatterjee. He is the editor of BharatShakti.in. Brigadier Chatterjee is also he was an artillery officer. He commanded a brigade in the deserts before commanding one in intense counter-insurgency environment. So he is somebody who will be able to tell us exactly what goes on. Sir, given that India is one of the largest military forces, almost 12 lakh Jawans there, you know, the number of cases might not be very huge, but still it's a matter of grave concern, isn't it?
Well, any case, even a single case, will of course naturally cause a lot of concern. But let's have a little broader look at this. Fragging does happen, and especially in operational areas where the stresses are higher, like you were talking about Vietnam or perhaps in Afghanistan, etc. It's happened. I think the number of cases that we have had are extremely few. And those cases, especially you quoted, there's an odd man who has decided on that day to shoot 5 people. So it's not a question really of 5 such cases, it's a question of 1 such case only.
Okay.
And of course, primarily it's stress related rather than definitely not operational stress. I will agree very much with that, having served in this kind of areas over here. And in this case particularly, let's say when this boy was using a cell phone while on duty,
right.
While on duty, he was at a sentry post. All that you have is perhaps a couple of sandbags or maybe something stronger, but your head is entirely out there in the open because you've got to observe yourself. So when you do use a cell phone, you light your face up completely and
right.
give the enemy a good chance to target you. So I think what the officer did was very fine. It's unfortunate that things have turned out to be whatever they are.
All right. Also, sir, you spoke about stress, but if you could just elaborate more on that, what is it that leads to such kind of incidents of fragging? Is it just the tension of operating in counterinsurgency areas, or is there something more deeper if one is to look at the causes of it?
Look, the causes, well, let me get to the causes later. Let me just explain to you what are the conditions of service there for a normal Jawan under very routine circumstances, not when he's into an active operation. Let's say he's on a road opening patrol, which goes out every day, and he's out every day. You stand there so that the traffic passes by without any interference, any intervention by terrorists. But actually speaking, you're always aware that he could be shot. You could be shot there. And it's only when you're shot that do you realize that there's been an intervention. It's almost as bad as that. So that creates a lot of stress in a man. When he gets back to his barracks also, it's the same stress. After all, his post could be attacked at night also. So he's living under a continuous stress. But then this stress gets dissipated because of living in a group over there. And what really acts on him, well, I would say in a way it's the mobile phone which is perhaps more responsible. If there's a problem at home, his wife or his mother or whoever brings him up immediately. So on top of the stress that they on him in the bargain. And perhaps some people just break. And that's how this kind of thing happens.
Brigadier Chatterjee, if you look at the statistics, the number of such cases of fragging, they're on the decline, which is certainly good news. But when you look at today's atmosphere, what's happening along the line of control, the tensions with China, do you think, that adds to the stress? Do you think that the Indian Army might just be starting to feel the heat of the tension that surrounds them?
I think the soldiers of the Indian Army, officers and soldiers of the Indian Army, are one of the best battle-hardened soldiers anywhere in the world. They have been in an insurgency right through their service almost. So we have people who have been through J&K, we have people who have gone into the insurgencies in Northeast. There's hardly a day that goes without the boys over there being on some operation or some duty which is a little more risky than, let's say, peacetime job. So I don't see the Indian Army really in any way getting a detrimental effect on account of the Chinese also coming into the play or anything like that. I don't think it's going to be so easy for anybody to demoralize the army to that point that they get affected by such things. Yes, we've had fragging before, and we've had other cases or other kind of cases which are not normal deaths also before. And let me just recall once, I think it was in about 2007, that we decided to train a lot of our JCOs in stress management in the army. Okay. And that had a very good effect, I would say, in the organization, in the sense that at least cases of suicides had come down quite a bit. So that they're carrying on with, and that's all I
think these kind of initiatives, perhaps more and more of these kind of initiatives could really help and even bring down these numbers even further. But pleasure having you on the show, Brigadier Chatterjee. Thanks so much for putting things into perspective for our viewers and giving us a closer look and a deeper insight into what happens in these conditions and what really drives our army Jawans to take such drastic measures.